watching Thrifty Kaniffy.
Hello everyone and welcome to Thrifty Kaniffy. Well, I've decided to do a cleanup video today. You can see this is a knife and a mineral bath. Been soaking in there for about an hour. What we've got here is a Western Stockman. This is the 742 pattern. It's a 4 inches closed. We've got jigged Delrin handles, nickel silver shield and bolsters with the nice threading on there. Carbon steel blades, of course, and I believe this is from the 60s or 70s. I have some contradictory information about the tang and the handle material. They don't really match up with what I'm reading, so I'm a little confused about precisely what date this is. So maybe as we get more into the details of the tang and so forth, someone maybe more familiar with Westerns can help me out with that. All right, let's pause. Let me get this cleaned up and I'll be back. Okay, so we've got it out of the bath now. We're just going to kind of give the channels clean up and kind of show you what the snap's like on this thing. Now, it's been sitting about an hour. I'd say the snap improved a little bit on the main blade. It's a little bit low before that walk kicks in, but it does have a nice little snap to it. Wet all over again. Let's kind of give a breakdown of what we're looking at. There's your sheep's foot. It's got some good snap. This one's got some snap too. Spade blade. Not quite as good as the other two blades, but still pretty decent. Let's keep working that a little bit. Well, let's take a look at some of the features of it. So yeah, you got that federal shield and the jigged Delrin handle. And it's still pretty wet, but it put a lot of moisture in there, and it wasn't real bad. It was pretty brown still, but inside the little recesses of the jigging, there was a little bit faded, and then on the edges as well. It looks a lot better now as far as being brown. There's a good look at your carbon springs. See how well that's built. Got a nice clip point blade. A long pull on it. Nice swedge there at the top. It's on both sides, but a little more prominent on that side apparently. And here's your tang stamp. There you go. It says Western over Boulder, Colorado, made in USA. And then on the back, you got the pattern number. And this one does not have the date code underneath it, so it's prior to when they started using that, from what I understand. And then on the spade blade, you actually have some more information here. It says concave ground, so it's just got a hollow grind on it. But I haven't sharpened this or anything. This is just fresh from having received it. And the only thing I did was just dunk it in the bath. And there you get a pretty decent idea of what that looks like inside there. It's pretty bad. But with the soak, I expect that some of that is loosened up. And I should be able to kind of work on that with some tools and things and get that to brighten up a little bit. Okay, so I'm going to be using this little dowel rod that I've just whittled down the tip a little bit with my trusty spider co. Well, it's not really a spider co. It's the bird Robin 2. Worked a treat for this. And we're going to kind of scrape around in there. Try to get on either side of the spacer. And just kind of loosen up the rust that has been soaking there for a while. And then get in there with the Q-tips and see what we're doing. If it's not removing it fast enough, because I'm not going to spend a ton of time on this. We'll get a little more aggressive with some sandpaper. I'll rub that out with the Q-tip. Pretty grimy. Let's get the other side out here. I'm gonna try to clean up the inside of the tangs on here as well. That's another little important aspect. All right, so I introduced a second tool. Just got a popsicle stick. Whittled that down a little bit. I've been rubbing on that, but it's still pretty black in there. Let's see what we've got loosened up now. See, that's still coming up. So yeah, we're still getting a lot removed from in there. We're going to keep working on it, and I'll come back again. All right, and just as a way of speeding up the process, I decided to kind of go with the toothpick wrapped over with the sandpaper. Going over it like this on the inside. You can see taking off some of the brass. You can see that coming off the. So I'm just trying to be careful as I can with it without getting too nuts. But it does seem to be helping a lot to use the sandpaper. Let's see where we're at with it now. You can see some of it shining now. So let's just wipe out the channel here and see where we're at. We've got quite a ways to go yet. We're still getting a ton of black off of there. So I'm going to keep using the 2 Q-tips and see where we end up. All right, so we're going to be calling that good. You can see it's pretty shiny down in there now. It's got some glint coming off of there. The brass is nice and shiny on either side, and springs down there are nice and clean. So let's see if we can't get a cloth down in there. I'm just gonna try to do this in a little more efficient fashion. Let's do that on the side. Let's see what we're picking up there. Yeah, still got some gunk on there, so we'll just keep working that. Just gonna use that as a way to move the towel back and forth. Clean that channel out. All right, I think I'm gonna call that good. And that looks pretty darn good down in there now. Nice and shiny. And we've got some smaller little tools here, so gotta clean that away. We're gonna be working on that spay blade first. We'll work all that crap out of the pivots. Go from the bottom as well. All right. Let's get this side. Clean one of those. There we go. And it's just a nice relaxing way to spend an evening, isn't it? Just cleaning your knives. And it's always nice to kind of see how far along you can get an old knife to come back to glory, you know. Just never know exactly what you're getting when you buy things a little bit unseen. Yes, there's photos, but you know, you don't have the ability to look at it from every angle and examine it from every aspect. Like, for example, we've got cracked handles. I mean, I never would have been able to tell that from the photos. Not that that's a massive deal. I mean, these are Delrin. They're not going to continue to really get much worse than that. But, you know, it's just one of those things where you just really don't know what you're buying till you get it in hand. And that's fine, because, I mean, I didn't spend any more than I wanted to spend, so it's not like I didn't kind of figure that into the price, you know. I always have to be a little leery about what you spend. But that's starting to feel pretty good. It's much better than it was. It's actually improving on the downward part, and even with no lubrication in there now. And these all feel still really snappy. They were never real bad to begin with, especially that sheep's foot blade. Spay blade was probably the weakest, but I just need to continue to work the blades, and then we're going to clean the pivots and get that all that mineral oil that's picking up all the nasties. And we'll come back and kind of see if we improved on the blade action a little bit, walk and talk. Okay, yeah, had a little bit of improvement. We added some super lube, and then I just cleaned the pivots with that. And you can see the internals are a lot, I got a lot of that, there's some surface stuff on the top of the tangs and along the tang. So now it's just, the talk is so much smoother. Like there's nothing interfering at all with its opening. So yeah, really good walk and talk, smooth action. This blade improved the most. Yeah, so that's really good. Really happy with that. And it's got a lot of snap left in these blades. A lot of life left in them. So now we can just work on the handles and maybe try to polish those up a little bit. Maybe clean up the brass a little bit on the outside. But yeah, now more just cosmetic stuff. We're going to work on these bolsters. You can see they're pretty scratched up. Which one was it? There was one that had a pretty particularly bad scratch. Yeah, right here. So you can see that. I'll try to smooth that out a little bit. What about this side? Yeah, you can see the pin there. And it's got a pretty nice little scratch in it there. So we'll just try to work these over a little bit. Try to smooth them up. Okay, so I've got some 400 grit here, and I just cut this up and then write the number on there so I know what the heck I'm using. But that's pretty aggressive, 400. I'm just going to use it lightly with a wet sand. We're just going to spray. This is just soapy water. That's all this is in this bottle. I just refilled it, and we'll get a little on paper as well. This is specifically designed for wet sand, so make sure you're buying the right paper for that. Well, we're just going to take off the original finish on this, and I'm just going to go in a circular motion. I don't want to get any kind of deep grooves. Try to keep it consistent throughout, and I'm going to try to hit those areas where, I don't know if you can make that out, but there's an area here that's kind of rougher than the rest. We're just going to hit that with a little more frequency. Get that smoothed out. Give us a little more room to work. And I'm just trying to be careful not to hit the handle. I'm not interested in sanding that at all. We're just going to keep it wet. It starts to get loud, you know. Need a little more water. All right, but I'm not going to take you through all this. Obviously, you kind of get the idea here, but I'm going to do this to all four sides, you know, here, 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 and here. And you can see like the difference between it already, how much sheen has come off of it. It's going to be pretty dull with a 400 grit sand, but the idea is you get out all those medium scratches. The super deep ones we're just never going to get all the way out. You kind of just have to concede that those are probably going to be there for good, and we'll get like 85% of them, you know. That's kind of what we're looking at here. Okay, so I've hit all the corners with the 400 grit. I'm going to move on to probably like a 600 or 800, depending on what I can find here. But I was going to show you the little trick for the threads. And so what I like to do for the threads is You're generally not going to have any deep scratches in the threads because they're kind of recessed. So you don't need to use like a really low grit or anything. You can use a more fine grit to do it. And I start with a 3000. So you can see here's 3000. And you don't probably have to do these wet. But just fold it in half so you have a crease. And just slide it in there. And we're just going to work that back and forth. Maybe about 15-20 times until you... Okay, so I'm happy with that. And now, like I say, we'll just move to a higher grit. I've got a 7000 grit here. And that'll really polish it up. Start down here at the bottom of it. No sense going through the middle. Yeah, it's really smooth now. You can just kind of feel how smooth that is. So you just continue to go up in grit, you know, to higher numbers. And went from 3000 to 7000. You could even get some lapping paper in there if you wanted, and really go nuts, like 12,000 grit or whatever the heck you want. But just come back and clean it out. You can see how polished that looks. Looks really nice. Now you could stop there and have a nice contrast of sort of satin finish and you know, that really bright thread, but I'm just going to try to keep this as original looking as possible, so I'm going to go ahead and brighten the bolsters up too. Alright, so here's the start of the 600 grit. So that's going to be my next step up. And I'm going to go ahead and do 4 of these, then go to an 800 and a 1000 and so on. Alright, so a little bit of progress here. So this is after the 600. Completed with that. Just kind of an even application of that. Sanding on there. And we're going to go up to 800 now. Alright, so we're done with 800 there. Can I give you a look where we're at? Starting to come along. Investigating it a little more, you know, I'm not getting all those deepest scratches out. It's not going to be, you know, perfection. And I knew that going in. I don't want to use like 220. Using 220, I would have been here forever trying to get all the scratches out from that. So we stuck to 400 for the start, and so that was as deep as we were going to get. But we're going up to 1000 now, and I'll come back after I've done that. Okay, so we've just completed the 1000 grit on 4, and you can see it's starting to brighten up a little bit. Now the idea here for the shield is I'm going to kind of wait till I feel the bolsters and the shield look about the same, and then at that grit I'll begin polishing the shield, because you don't want to have to start too low. There's no point in that. It's got some scratches in it, but it's not to the point where the sheen is off of it like this yet. So when that matches, then I'll begin to polish the shield up with some sandpaper too, wet sand it. And then I'll probably at that same point start to work on the back springs here too, and the liners. But that's where we're at after 1000 grit. Alright, didn't seem to be a whole lot of change with this 1200 grit. Seems like this is probably not as accurate as I'd like, but you can see I don't think there's much difference between where I was at 1000 and this one. So I think the next step up is going to be 2000 grit. So that's where we'll go next, and then I'll come back. Okay, so I just completed the 2000 grit, and here's where we're at now. Getting to be quite a bit shinier now. And that did make a noticeable difference. So we're going to be stepping up to 3000, and then I'll come back. Okay, so 3000 is complete. I'm going to give you an idea. Starting to brighten up. There you go. And we're going to jump to, I believe, 7,000 next. Actually, we found some 5,000, so we're going to go with 5,000 first. Nice and wet all over it. Alrighty, so we're finished with the 5. I was thinking there's 6, but there's not. So we're going to go up to 7. But we're getting pretty close to the sheen of the shield. I'm thinking at 7 we're going to be there. So I'll probably do that and then the back springs with the 7,000. Alright, we'll be back. Okay, so we are now at the 7,000 mark and we have completed the 4 bolsters. Haven't hit the shield yet, but I hit the back springs and the liners there. Got those cleaned up. And now we're going to go for some lapping paper because I know the sheen on that can be improved quite a bit still. Alright, so I'm going to go with the pink. I don't recall what the pink is. You can look it up. It's lapping paper. And it'll be universal with the color. But it's pink, and we'll use that. Alright, so we're finished with the pink. I'll give you an idea what we're going with. I hit the shield and the bolsters and then the back screens the second time. And look at the back here. Alright, so that's where we're at with that. Alright, after the yellow, here we go. And we're going to be on to the final stage with the flits. And I'm going to polish the handle as well. That's going to be part of it. Got to brighten that up. But that'll be the final step if I'm happy with it. And in that case, if I'm not happy with it, I'm not exactly sure what I'll do, but may just have to polish for a longer length of time. But that's where we're at now. You can see there's been some considerable improvement over the different stages, and now we're up to a pretty nice little shine. Okay, so hit it with flits and we'll be back. Okay, so we have used the flits and gave it a long and detailed polish. Polish the handles, polish the bolsters, polish the shield, polish the pins, polish the tops of the blades, polish the inside liners. I'm just going to pull the one out, but you can see this liner on the top of the bolsters, the spacer, and then the back. And yeah, it's come a long way. Polished the tangs a little bit. Didn't do anything with the blades. That's for another day. I'll possibly go back and try to remove some of these heavy scratches out of there, just to kind of brighten it up a little bit to make it look a little more presentable. It's got quite a few scratches on the blade, but you can read the tang a lot better now. There you go. Western Boulder, Colorado, made in the United States of America. And on the back, 742. So I need to do a final oiling of it, because when I did the wet sand, got quite a bit of water in there, and it probably just needs to be re-lubricated now at this point. It's kind of washed out some of the oils. But there you go. Western 742 Stockman. Trying to bring this thing back to like new. And bolsters look a lot better than they did at the beginning. And go back and compare the photos. Kind of put a little bit of fingerprints on some of them a little bit here. So let's just kind of knock the smoosh off. Give it a final look over here. So close to mirror polished. Pretty darn close. So, hopefully you enjoyed the improvements. I think this is going to come a long way. I still need to sharpen it and work on the blades, but just kind of gives you an idea of some of the cosmetic improvement that you can do with these. Mineral oil goes a long way to kind of moisturize those handles, and with some patience you can get a lot of those scratches out of the bolsters. Not the deepest ones, but a good number of them. Like I said, probably about 85% get knocked out. And now it's very presentable. You can carry this with pride. All right. Okay, guys, I hope you enjoyed the video. Make sure you like, subscribe, hit the bell to be made aware of videos when they drop. We'll see you next time. Take care.